welcome to the all-new, all-different #1 Comics Podcast. This is episode number 26. I am your co-host, Dan. Sitting directly across from me is Bob. Say hello, Bob.
Hello, Bob.
We are a comic book podcast where each and every week we take a look at a brand new #1 comic book, break down the story as well as art, give it a little bit of a review, and tell you if we think that you should move on to issue number 2 or not. We also talk a little bit of comic book and related news, as well as what's new at comic book shops this and next week. And this week we'll be taking a deep dive into the all-new #1.
From Dark Horse comic, Barnstormers, a ballad of love and murder, written by Scott Snyder and drawn by Tula Lotay.
Beautifully said, Bob. I was going to say, I don't know how you word something like that. It's not called a subtitle, but, you know, like the little... I don't know. This is, you know, to me this was Barnstormers. And then as I was reading it, I was like, oh no, it's Barnstormers, a ballad of love and murder. So
Subtitle's good.
Yeah, subtitle, sure. I mean, I guess when I think subtitle, I think, you know, you're watching a movie or whatever, and then it's got the little written out form of the dialogue at the bottom of the screen there. But yeah, closed captioning, sure. I guess that's not subtitles. Yeah, either way, we're here to talk about subtitles and not comic books. This is the all-new, all-different #1 subtitle podcast. We'll be right back after this quick break. And we are back with the all-new, all-different #1 Comics Podcast. Bob, there's not a whole lot of news this week.
Very slow week.
There's actually not really any news this week. I think, you know, when you came over, you first spoke to me about Mary Jane getting her new superpowers as Jackpot, spoiler alert, and Amazing Spider-Man. I guess newsworthy. I don't know. I mean, conversation worthy, I guess. But I don't really know what else to say about it.
Surprisingly, after all these years, they haven't done it.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the things we were talking about. There's a couple of things that almost seem like off the table. Of course, you get like every time you hear about Batman, every time Batman's rebooted or whatever, like you always get to see his parents die and get to see his origin story. I don't know, but there are like a couple of things.
We need a refresher every few years.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, you might forget. It's very important to know his parents died there. But I think that, you know, there's a couple of things that just seem off the table. Of course, very famously, one of them is not bringing Uncle Ben back. That's just...
Like I said, you can make as many alternate versions as you want.
Sure.
But you can't bring Uncle Ben proper back to life.
So here's the question then, and I kind of threw this out to you, and I'll throw this out to the listeners as well. Is there a clause over in the Marvel contract, like whenever you sign on to write a Marvel book, are they like, all right, here's a list of things you can never touch, and Uncle Ben, resurrecting Uncle Ben is one of them. Like, it just cannot be done. Like, it has to be, right?
I have a feeling they do, and it's literally called the Uncle Ben clause.
Yeah, because...
I would not be surprised.
Yeah, there's no way, after all these years, that somebody hasn't come up with the brilliant idea to do, like, some kind of Uncle Ben thing. So
and it's like, no, can't do that.
Yeah.
It's set in stone. It's like, not to get too religious here or offend people, but it's like the 10 Commandments.
Yep.
You know, thou shalt not bring Uncle Ben back to life.
Yes, absolutely. You can't. It's just not even an option. So
again, not to offend anybody. I'm sorry if I did.
I didn't offend anybody. Not with that. I mean, there's way worse things you could say. Like, I will like put in like a long beep there probably and make it sound cool. Yeah, but I don't know. Are there any other things like that you can think of? Like, what else is out there? I was just reading, and I can't remember which book it's in now, but there's... Oh, I think maybe Edge of Spider-Verse 4 that came out this past week, that J. Jonah Jameson is a Spider-Man. Has there ever been another time that you can think of where there was a J. Jonah Jameson Spider-Man?
Not that I can think of, no.
Yeah, I think that's a first, and of course his name is Headline, which I really like. That's a fun name, so...
Here's a rule, and we just actually talked about it. If you do a Batman movie, you have to show his parents dying in Crime Alley.
Absolutely. It has to be done, because how else are you going to know that he was raised by bats and then bitten by a radioactive bat and became
Oh, that would have been so cool for an origin.
Yeah, somebody should just mix it up, throw it in there.
Maybe. Do you remember when Stan Lee was doing the?
The Just Imagines.
Just Imagines.
Oh yeah.
I never read them, so I'm not quite sure.
That had to have been what happened, right? Because I remember that the Batman one, like he basically just looked like Man-Bat, like it was a bat guy, like instead of Batman.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a dude dressed up in a costume. It was like a mutated bat person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. That stuff's fun to think about. I like whenever they put those out. Those are really cool. You know, they should do the vice versa also. I don't know if that's ever been done before, but like I know we don't have like a prolific like creator over at DC or anything. It's not like there's a Stan Lee of DC really. Mm-hmm. But like could we do like DC reimagines the Marvel universe or something? That would be a lot of fun. Like, what would a Amazing Spider-Man done by DC be like? Or like a Captain America? I don't know. How would that change their origin story, I wonder?
Well, I guess in a way, and I was talking about it a couple of episodes back about coming out of the death metal event.
Yep.
You know, when those new superheroes got their powers.
Mm-hmm.
And even though he didn't have the exact same power set as Spider-Man, I mean, of course, we know he was inspired by Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. So could you technically say that was DC's version?
Yeah, I guess so. And I wonder if something like City Boy also, that doesn't seem like a typical DC origin to me. It seems pretty Marvel inspired, at least his power set or something. Like, it just seems a little different. I don't know.
Yeah, that doesn't really seem like any Marvel hero.
I mean, not anything that like it's side by side with. I just mean like it seems more like it comes from like the Marvel universe
than the
DC universe, just with the superpowers there and everything. I don't know. Just interesting to think about how some of those might come out from a different publisher as opposed to the one that they're synonymous with. Some I don't know what word I just said, but yeah,
words are hard.
Well, for me, we all know.
I mean, Peacemaker is a form of Captain America.
Oh yeah,
he's Captain America when he went Hydra.
Yeah, sure, and he's got that eagle, so there's that at least. I don't know.
Maybe
is that a sidekick?
Maybe that's his Sam Wilson.
Yeah, I think so. So Bob, there's not really much news to talk about. I'm just gonna go into something else. So here's where we're gonna go with this.
Okay.
This is all. I'm going to throw out your disclaimer that you usually throw out with your new comics releasing.
Change your pace.
Yeah, I got to take that away from you this episode. This is about some movies.
Don't worry, I'll be saying it later.
Yeah, it'll come up again. Don't worry. Yeah, this is about some movies that are scheduled to come out. Of course, there's a writer's strike. Of course, there's a million other things that caveats that could I don't know impede on that, or as we've seen with Deadpool 3, possibly even move something up. You never know. But these release dates are all very tentative. Anyways, I just want to get our number ratings for anticipation level on all of these projects that are slated to come out. So, if you're very, very excited, give me a 10. If you don't care that much, give me a 5. If you really don't want to see it, give me a 1. Yep, we're doing 1 to 10s. And I'm going in order of release date.
Can it go to 11?
Sure, if you wanted to. I know you want to see Blue Beetle. So, again, they're going in order of release date as announced right now. Now, this information may already be not valid anymore, or it might change tomorrow, so who knows. But you'll have to excuse me for that, and we'll just go along with the title. So, number 1 being Blue Beetle, which is right now scheduled for August 18th of this year. Give me a number, Bob.
I'm going to go 5 on that one.
5, okay. 5. So you're pretty neutral. Like you don't have plans on seeing it, but if you see it, you'll sit down and watch it. You're not expecting big things, but it could wow you or disappoint you.
Especially seeing that those first couple of trailers.
Yeah, agreed.
I mean, I'm not saying I'm totally disappointed with it, but I mean, I just wasn't. Oh my God. They're doing something different.
Yeah.
It's Blue Beetle.
Yeah, it doesn't look like anything I need to see either. I'm going to say 4 because sadly, I probably won't even watch it. It would take like something really big to make me watch it. I mean, look how many people have said good stuff about The Flash, and I still haven't watched it. So So I don't know. I'm kind of very lukewarm on that. So how about Kraven the Hunter, October 6th, 2023?
That's gonna be an 8 for me.
An 8?
And
Wow.
I
Okay.
yeah I wanted it to be higher.
Yeah.
But again, there was just something about what I've seen so far that's kind of like, it just doesn't look as good as I thought it would be.
Yeah, oddly enough, I'm another number behind you again on this one. I'm going to go 7. I really want to see it. I think that it has a lot of potential.
I
It
do
could be
too.
really, really cool. The trailer looks great. That Red Band trailer looks a lot of fun. I will say the only thing that I don't like about it, and it's not the origin. I don't care that they stole Catman's origin to do Kraven instead. It doesn't matter to me.
Kill his parents.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter much to me. I mean, there's a lot of people complaining on the internet about how they change, heroes or villains or whatever, comic book characters' origins. I don't really care. I feel like it's a different telling of the story. It doesn't have to be 100% comic book accurate to impress me or whatever.
Right.
I'm just excited to see the character on screen, see an interpretation. But I will say the thing that takes it down like a couple of levels for me is like it looks like a lot of fun, but why is Kraven the Punisher? Like he's just killing everyone. Like I don't know. It just seems a little intense, and I would like to see a little bit more Kraven personality behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Even if his origins changed, I'm fine with that. But yeah, just it doesn't seem Kraven.
Now, to ask a question to you about Kraven,
Mm-hmm.
do you think it all depends on the financials of this movie if he gets moved over into the Spider-Verse?
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure that's probably how they're looking at everything. The financials, and then maybe not even 100%. Sorry, percent just the financials, but also it needs to at least be acclaimed by the audience or something like that. We can't have like a Morbius situation and then move it over to the Spider-Verse. So yeah, there's always that. Bob, how about the Marvels, October 10th, 2023? We got Miss Marvel, we got Captain Marvel, we got Photon. Like, I don't know.
I'm gonna say 6 on that.
A 6? Okay.
Yeah, a 6. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm excited for this, and being more of a Marvel than DC fan, I'm always more up for seeing the Marvel movies than the DC movies. But I don't know. I just still after all this time, I just still can't. I can't get behind Brie Larson as Captain Marvel.
So it's a Brie Larson problem for you. Okay.
That's the main thing. She's just a little too wooden to me.
I got you. So, and again, that's something we hear a lot of. A lot of people say that. I'm on the opposition of that. This is a 9 for me. I'm really looking forward to this one. The only thing that makes it not a 10, and I hate to say this, is Monica Rambeau. Like I just don't. I feel I don't like that character. It's not the actress. It's not. See,
and I actually like the character of Monica Rambeau.
Really, I'm just not into Photon. Like I don't know why. I'm just not into her. I'm really, really excited about Camilla Khan. Like I love the Miss Marvel show. I thought it was amazing. I'm excited to see her on the big screen and interact with Brie Larson and stuff. I love Brie Larson. I thought Captain Marvel, wow, was like a 9 all day in my book. I love that movie. I like her in the role as well.
Yeah, and I'm really glad Marvel did that when they cast who they cast is Miss Marvel.
Yep.
The fact that they're bringing somebody from their TV side into their movie side. That's, to me, that's where DC dropped the ball.
Yeah, sure.
Because pretty much the day after, the Flash series was announced, and people found out Grant Gustin was going to be the Flash.
Yep.
We found out Ezra Miller was going to be the Flash for the, for the movie side, and it's kind of like, if you look back on it now, who did the better job as Flash?
Yeah.
all the issues with Ezra Miller aside, I mean, just the way they portrayed Barry Allen, I think they should have given Grant Gustin a chance.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's hard to wash out of my brain the Ezra Miller of it all and Ezra Miller's personal life. Now, like you said, that aside, I agree. I like the other actor better. I think that I don't know, a lot of props are being given to Ezra Miller for their performance in The Flash right now, and a lot of people are saying, you know, whatever they're saying, you know, whether they don't care about the controversial stuff or whatever, or if the studio itself is backing Ezra Miller and saying you'll forget about all the stuff like we discussed before. I don't know. I just don't see it. I think, like, why prop up these people? Just get Ezra Miller out of here. Like, we don't need any Ezra Miller stuff. Go away, Ezra Miller. Nobody likes you. Go home. But yeah, I'm really excited about the Marvels. That's definitely the highest one for me so far. I cannot wait to see that. Here's one that I'm interested to hear your number on, and I'm interested to come up with mine as well, because I don't know where I stand on it just yet.
Okay.
Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, of course, on Christmas Day, December 25th, 2023.
That's very odd time to bring that movie out, but
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, well, you know.
You know, my number changed on this one.
Okay. Yeah, because you were really, really stoked on Aquaman, that first movie.
Yeah, my number was around a 7-8.
Mm-hmm.
I was going back and forth on which one it was, but
Yeah.
I mean 7 and 8 is so close.
Yeah, sure.
Now it's probably a 3.
Wow, a 3, all the way down to a 3. Is it because you're really sad that they cut all the Amber Heard out of the movie, and that's why you wanted to see it?
No, I'm really glad the trial's over with. I was tired of hearing about it.
Oh man, I loved watching it.
No,
Though. It
the
was a
biggest
media
reason
circus. It was
for
fun.
me is, as of this point, it means nothing.
Yeah, it you're right. I mean, what do you even say about it? It does nothing. It means nothing. There's no point. It's just a movie that's there. Which I guess I could say, you know, to defend movies from the past or whatever. I mean, that's what all movies used to be. Like, they were just nothing. It was just a movie. Didn't really connect to anything else, and it didn't matter.
But considering where the state of movie franchises are nowadays.
Yeah, it's a throwaway. There's no point. I will say this. I actually hated that first Aquaman. It was a lot of fun for me because I watched it in I don't remember what it's called, 4X or 4D something, where the water shoots out and the wind shoots out and everything.
4D.
Okay, 4D, yeah. The seat moves and all that stuff. It was a fun ride. Like I felt like I was at a Universal ride. Like it was a lot of fun. The movie, if I watched it just straight, you know, just a regular movie, I don't think I would have enjoyed it at all. I think I probably would have walked out at some point, to be honest with you. And I haven't walked out of very many movies. But as a ride, it was a lot of fun. Now, that first half of the movie where we had to, like, go through all the stuff with the parents and all that, it was super boring to me.
I could definitely see where that could turn people off.
Well, let me tell you this. My, whatever they use now, I guess digital projector or whatever, it had a hiccup and it stopped, like, right after that part. And then they didn't know what to do, so instead of, like, just continuing on, they started the movie over again. So I had to watch that twice. Yeah,
I was gonna say, wasn't that about at least 20, 30 minutes?
Yeah, that's in my memory. Yeah, it's definitely that long. But yeah, that's.
Do you think that could have affected your opinion?
No, I mean, I don't know, man. It's Jason Momoa. It's. I'm just not sure. Look, Amber Heard wasn't even the worst part of that for me. I was fine with her performance.
And I thought Jason Momoa did a good job.
It's not that he did a bad job. It's just I don't like that depiction of Aquaman. Like, I don't like the bro thing. I think and I like how they leaned into it. I thought that was funny.
Do you want the hook hand?
Yeah, I think so. I think I just kind of want that old school. Like, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what I want out of it. I'm not a huge Aquaman fan as it is. It's not like I'm out there reading a bunch of Aquaman comics.
So you want the green pants?
Yeah,
and the
definitely.
Orange top?
I don't know. Either that or
got
again,
a little bit of that.
Sure. I think I've said this probably way too many times, so you probably already know where I stand. But, like, I don't know, man. Like, why can't we get into the horror element of some of these things? Like, they kind of did it in the little trench scene. Like, I would have loved to see a really dark movie. I think that would have been really cool, and that would have upped the stakes a lot for me. I would have liked that. I know Aquaman's not traditionally a horror character. I get that. But, like, I don't know. I think that's a huge missed opportunity. That would have been cool.
Well, there was the rumor of the Trench spinoff.
Yeah, and then it got squashed.
I
That's not
think
happening.
that's pretty much dead in the
Yeah,
water
that's
right now.
Puns and everything. But yeah, I don't know. I think I'm just gonna go 1 point ahead of you, and I'm gonna go with a 4. I will say this: after that trial, that Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, it really made me dislike Amber Heard a lot. But like I said a minute ago, I didn't have any problem with her performance in the movie, and I'm kind of sad that she's not going to be involved in it that much. I think that, I don't know, just him, like if it's just really focused on him, I'm just not sure. I'm just not sure what to think here, but I'll say a 4. Let's move on to the next one. Madam Web, right now with the date of February 16th, 2024. Who knows if that date will stick, but Bob, deep breath on this one.
And I'm not deep in breath as in it's gonna be bad.
Yeah.
I'm actually gonna give that a 7.
Okay.
I'm actually looking forward to, because I know almost next to nothing about Madam Web.
Yeah, this one I think is really, really interesting. This is a really oddball move for them, just like El Muerto, like which is now, completely gone. It's not looking like that will ever come out. But this one obviously has a big cast involved. It's got some big characters. It's got a lot of like tie-in, to the overall Spider-Verse. It looks like. I don't know. I'm with you. Like I think this one has the potential to be really, really good. I'm going to say 8 for me. How about, and look, we already know this date isn't happening. Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse, March 29th, 2024. I think that's very, very laughable that they thought that would come out at that time. But yeah, anyways, we know that will be in production at some point. So what's your ranking on that?
Oh, that definitely goes to 11.
Yeah, I'm with you.
That definitely goes.
Yeah,
after the last movie,
after that, ooh.
After how it ended, that's definitely going to 11.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you there. Deadpool 3, May 3rd, 2024.
That's going to be right below Beyond the Spider-Verse. That's going to get a 10.
A 10 for you? Okay,
10.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm really stoked about the Wolverine. I'm excited that they're going to bring in all the X characters and everything. I like Deadpool, but here's my caveat here. I'm not like the hugest fan of like all the comedy in there. I think that I don't know, it just takes it down a little bit for me. So while I really liked Deadpool 1 and 2, I still, by really liking them, would probably give them both like a 6 or something. So this is like right there, like 6.
Have you heard the rumor about who could be coming back? Who was reportedly spotted on set?
Are we talking Magneto?
No.
Okay.
No. We're talking 90s Daredevil.
Oh, wow.
Mr. Ben Affleck himself was reportedly spotted on set.
I could see that. Ben Affleck has a great comedic background and stuff like Dogma and everything. Yeah, obviously Mallrats and stuff. Yeah, that would be cool. I would love that.
And with the reported whole, of course, multiverse aspect of the movie, I mean, Ben Affleck coming back as Deadpool for like a cameo or something.
Yeah.
I mean, throwaway cameo, that would make sense.
That would be cool. I would like that. Yeah, that would up the ante for me a little bit. How about Captain America Brave New World, July 26, 2024?
That's going to be an 8.
Wow, an 8.
An 8, yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm conflicted on this one as well. I don't know how much I want to see this. I almost wish that Captain America could just rest for a little bit. I know it's a new Captain America. I get that. I think out of the Marvel Disney Plus shows, I liked Captain America Falcon and Winter Soldier. My bad. I liked it, but it was definitely like probably the lowest rated one for me. I don't know. This one's probably going to sit at like a 6 for me and kind of see where it goes from there. Here's a big one for you, Bob. I know you're very excited about Joker, Folly. How do you pronounce that? Whatever. Joker 2. Whatever.
Folly did. I can't even remember what
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
called.
Yeah,
So that
sure.
might give my number away right there.
Yeah, man, I'm with you. I don't know what your number is.
I didn't even see the first one. I mean, a buddy of mine said it was, good, but I mean, I never watched it. I mean, no offense against, Joaquin Phoenix and, of course, Lady Gaga. Of course, I've never seen her.
Sure.
I know she's acted in a movie, but I don't know what she's acted in.
Yep.
But, I don't know. I mean, I know that Phoenix is playing a character that, I personally like. I know your stance on the Joker. And don't get me wrong, Joaquin Phoenix, I think he's a really good actor. I loved him, in Gladiator. I like him in a lot of other movies. But, I don't know. I mean, to me, Joker should not be like an artsy role.
Yep.
And, I mean, any movie with Joaquin Phoenix, that's what it's going to be. I mean, again, he's a really good actor. I mean, the movies he's in, and I know he picks and chooses his movies. Every star does. But,
Sure.
I mean, especially somebody like him, pick and choose their roles.
Yep.
But, I don't know. I just for the character of the Joker, you don't need, like, an artsy, out there kind of Joker.
I'm with you. I don't know who this interpretation is for, and I will say I know quite a few people that really, really like the movie, and what I'm going to say about it, it might be controversial, I don't know, but I hated it. I thought it was a terrible, terrible movie. I sat through it, so I guess that maybe it's
7
better than
times?
the Batman. Yeah, no. But it's definitely not anything I ever want to see again. I really didn't like it at all. And what I've heard from people that really like it is this is a movie for people who don't like superheroes or superhero movies. It's like it's for people who want to see, that kind of movie and I don't know, the deconstruction of that kind of character or whatever. I'm not into that kind of thing. I don't think obviously I'm big on superheroes. I'm big on comic books. I don't want to see the anti-comic book movie of a comic book character.
We're doing this podcast for a reason, guys.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I think it's very bad. I will say Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn. That sounds cool. She's a really interesting person, and I'm sure she'll do good at that. I'm sad that she has to do it in this. Again, another throwaway thing that doesn't matter to anything, but whatever. The last one I'm going to talk about, because I'm not going to go into 2025 movies. We'll stop at 2024. Is Thunderbolts, scheduled for December 20th, 2024. Give me your anticipation there, Bob.
I'm going a 6 on that one.
A 6, wow. Now, do you have any, like, are we going to get the, just the classic Thunderbolts in this thing? I don't know. I wonder what the lineup's going to be.
From the lineup, they first announced it's not going to be classic Thunderbolts.
No, okay. So I don't know. I mean, I'd have to get some more information. I'm not hugely partial to the Thunderbolts run. It's fun. It's a fun bit of comics there, but or long run of comics, I guess. Actually, I think it went past the 100s. But yeah,
it has. I mean, for a newer team, it actually has been around.
Yeah,
they actually have been around for a hot minute.
Yeah, but I don't know. I'm with you. I think a 6 sounds very fair to not know much about it. But just as far as the potential for a Thunderbolts movie. Could be really, really cool. I think we're in a weird territory right now where there's the superhero fatigue that people talk about. Maybe Disney and Marvel not doing as well as before, not as much hype as before with things. So to get a huge ensemble on screen and execute really, really well and throw a lot of money and promotion at this thing, I guess we'll have to see what happens. That'll be interesting. I feel the same way, though, about the DC slate, knowing that there's more Batman coming out. There's the Superman movie and everything. I don't know that it can be sustained with the general audience anymore because of the talk of superhero fatigue and everything. So to have something that big on screen, that high stakes and everything, I'm not too sure, but I guess we'll have to see what happens there. But yeah, I'll go with a 6. Either way, we're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back. And we are back. Bob, let's talk about some new comics that dropped in comic book shops this week.
I know what 4 of them are.
Yeah, well, I know what a few of them are, but yeah, let's get into them. Image had a third printing on World Tree #1. Man, you and I just talked about this after reading issue #3. This is just, if you missed out, if you can't find a copy of #1, go get the third print, whatever. Go get the third print anyways. Support this book. It's so good.
They have enough variant covers out there.
yeah, you can find a copy. But yeah, it's really good. Of course, written
really
by
is.
James Tynion. And then a good friend of the show, Steve Fox, there on the editing. So definitely support that team. It's such a good book. You're definitely going to want to check that out. Another kind of horror book, I guess leans into the horror or whatever heavily in some spots, is an anthology book written by Maxwell Prince, the same author who did Ice Cream Man, and it's called Swan Songs. It's an anthology series about endings, and by endings they mean like the end of a relationship, the end of a sentence, the end of the world, all these kinds of things. But
That
it's
is a very interesting premise.
yeah, a very, very interesting book. I read that first issue, and it's interesting to say the least. Another book that Image put out this week was called Weird Work. Look, the solicit that I could find said it's LA Confidential crossed with Futurama. So if that doesn't sell you, I don't know what will. Definitely check that one out.
I can't imagine that in any way, shape, or form
Yeah.
because I love Futurama and I know what LA Confidential is, and it's kind of like, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, a comedy lawyer series?
Yeah, you might want to check that one out, see what happens. I don't know. Looks interesting to say the least. I like the cover art. Over to DC, we had Night Terror's Batman. We had Night Terror's Black Adam. We had Night Terror's First Blood. Night Terror's Poison Ivy. Night Terror's Ravager. Night Terror's Joker. And Steelworks, issue #2, with the first appearance of Silver Mist.
Wait a minute, what happened to that one?
I don't know. I don't know why we didn't get Steelworks Night Terrors. I mean, what's going on
I was
there?
gonna say, for a minute there, you sounded like Oprah Winfrey. You get a night terror. You get a night terror. You get a night terror.
I mean, look, everybody over in the DC universe got Night Terrors this week, other than Steelworks. It just didn't happen. Steel's left out. I feel bad for him. It's just kind of sad, but
who wouldn't want to see Shaq in the Nightingale world?
I don't know. I feel like there's got to be somebody out there who could maybe do like a fan copy or something, but whatever. Let's go over to Marvel. We've got Spider-Man 10. It's got the debut of a new Spider-Boy power. Of course, we're still talking about Spider-Boy in issue #10 here. When are we ever going to get the origin and find out exactly who they are? I don't know. We've got Thor Annual #1, where MODOK becomes Mythos because it was time for a name change. Why not?
Is it M period?
Oh yeah,
Y
yeah,
period?
of course, yeah. That's the only way
What it
to.
stands for.
It's the only way to do it. Hell if I know. We've got Extreme Venomverse #4 with the first appearance of Necro, aka Billy, the manga version of Venom. So we have a manga. I never know how to pronounce that.
I say manga.
Okay. Well, a manga version of Venom over there. And this was like the hot book of the week. If you got your hands on that 1 in 25 incentive, which I did, thank God. But yeah, you were sitting nice. It's slowly creeping up there. I think it dipped down to about $100 day of release. Now it's back up to like $150, $175. So we'll see if it can sustain. But you never know with these spider characters. So we also got the first appearance of Flora, the plant-based symbiote, as well as Venom Noir in there. So 3 first appearances. Really cool. Captain America had Symbol of Truth, $750. Again, I don't know how you justify the numbering here, but whatever. It's got the origin.
Legacy, man. Legacy.
Yeah, I know, but you know, it's got a subtitle. So come on, it's not Captain America. This has the origin of Sam's new shield. We also had Captain Marvel, Dark Tempest #1, first appearance of Nada, and the reintroduction of Nitro. Thank God for that. We had Edge of Spider-Verse 4. The first solo Dream Spider story, as well as the first appearance of Uncle Ruckus, Bob's favorite character. We had Headline in there as well, J. Jonah Jameson as Spider-Man, as I talked about before. And we also got X-Men Before the Fall, Sinister 4, with the origin of the 4 Mr. Sinister clones. Over from Scout Comics, we got E-Junkie, as well as Magician's Rabbit. And from Mad Cave, Under the Influence #1. And Bob, a comic that I wanted to mention from Opus, we got Gene Simmons' Dominatrix #1.
Oh.
Now, who's begging for Gene Simmons to write a comic book series? Isn't Gene Simmons like in his 80s now? Like, what's going on there?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know, with the exception of just like the novelty of Kiss in the 70s, like who cares about what Gene Simmons or anybody else?
I don't know. Have you seen all the Kiss products they put out over the years?
Yeah, I know. I mean, we got that cool Marvel comic with their blood in the ink, so that's interesting, I guess, if that's what you're into. Anyways, those are the new comics that came out this week. We'll be right back after a brief break, and then we'll go over Barnstormers #1. And we are back to talk about our comic book this week, our pick of the week, Barnstormers #1 from Dark Horse Comics. Bob, this was certainly a book, and I want to talk about it, but first I'm going to read the solicit from Dark Horse's website. And please, I want you to give me this crazy look when I read this, because I'm going to go ahead and say off the bat, this doesn't really match up to what's going on in the book. Just wait till I read some of the names. But a high-flying World War II adventure story that's an intimate portrait of love and war, and a meditation on the dangerous level of trust required in both romance and aviation. It's 1918. No, it's not. It's 1927, so I don't know what the hell they're talking about. The early days of the barnstorming era, when pilots competed with each other by performing deadlier and more wondrous feats as we've never seen it before. Pilot John Barron is back from the front lines of the war, where he was just injured at 18 years old. He's an adventurer who lives his traveling from town to town in his plane, entertaining folks across the country, most of whom have never seen a car, let alone a plane. His world changes when he meets Helen, a young woman who shares his passion for aviation and adventure. They become a traveling act, flying from town to town, delighting folks with their antics. Helen becomes John's wing walker, climbing out onto the wing to perform death-defying. It's so hard to read this because it doesn't match up the slightest bit. Along the way, they bond, confessing their secrets, and begin a romance in this lush, character-driven series that explores the early days of aviation and the evolving relationship and romance between two young pilots. What did I just read? How is that the solicit? Bob, that has nothing
Did you read this book?
Yeah, I promise. That, like, what? Where did this come from? Who wrote the solicit for this? Like,
who's Helen?
I'm pretty sure that the character's name is Hawk, a.k.a. Bix. I don't know who John is. I don't know who Helen is because her name is Tilly.
He was even talking about the next year, Barnstormers probably going to die.
Uh-huh. And this started in 1927, so...
The early days of Barnstorming.
What's happening here? It's blowing my mind how that is a solicit that somebody came up with.
I don't know if you looked over to me the whole time you were reading it. I'm like...
I was trying not to because it made me keep pausing and laughing, so I was trying really hard not to look over, but damn, that's... I have no idea who wrote that solicit. I think that it 100% has to be something to throw us off. Like, it's got to be. There's no way, because that just doesn't make sense, and that's not what happens in this book. Let's talk about the creators for a second. Scott Snyder, of course, famously known for his work on New 52, Batman, Swamp Thing, All-Star Batman, Dark Knight's Metal, blah, blah, blah. American Vampire, we just talked about him. I'm not going to go over all of Scott Snyder's titles because we would absolutely be here for 4 hours.
Yes.
But let's just hit some of the big ones. Batman, Batman Eternal, American Vampire, Justice League, Undiscovered Country, Batman and Robin, Eternal Swamp Thing, Batman, All-Star Batman, Noctera, Detective. I could go on forever. I'm not going to. Anyways, he's got a lot. Clear also, Witches, one of the greatest horror series of all time. Night of the Ghoul, and I'm seriously going to stop. So, just know that he's written half of your favorite comics. So, there's that. Let's also talk about the artist of the book, Tula Lotay, who I didn't realize until now is just her pen name. Her actual name is Lisa Wood. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah, I was expecting this, I don't know, like French lady or something. She's actually English, and her name is Lisa Wood. So,
Okay.
Tula Lotay is definitely a cover artist. All of the work that I know her from is her cover art. She does a lot of cover art. She's one of those artists that you see kind of like Momoko or I don't know. You just almost every comic has got a Tula Lotay cover to it somewhere in there. But she's a really great artist. I love her work a lot. It's a lot of fun. Some of the series that she actually worked on the interiors for, Ever After from Fables, Swords of Sorrow, Rebels, Nancy Drew, Bodies, Safe Sex, and again, I could go on, Tomb Raider, Faithless, but yeah, I won't. So both prolific creators there. Tula Lotay, not somebody you see super often in interiors, but she's definitely doing it this time. So I'm going to go into my synopsis of the book, which might make a little bit more sense than Dark Horse's. Barnstormers #1, or Barnstormers, that's so hard for me to say, Barnstormers, A Ballad of Love and Murder, Chapter 1, opens with a definition of barnstorming that reads, barnstorming, a form of entertainment popular for a brief period in the 1920s wherein wayward pilots would impress spectators with dangerous feats of daring. The book opens proper with a biplane flying over North Carolina in May of 1927. We meet Hawk, the pilot of the plane, as he looks for a gaggle of people. Gaggle's their word, not mine. A girl promised him that he doesn't see, so he thinks he might be lost. Just then, Hawk sees a huge crowd of people waving American flags and welcoming him. We go back 3 hours ago to Tennessee, where Hawk meets a phone operator who he pays to get him a crowd that he was looking for by having her call over to the next town and drum up some excitement. As Hawk talks to her, he sees a large robot named Mr. Baby. Hawk lands at a wedding and ruins it while he meets Tilly, who was the bride of the wedding. And, sorry, I've messed up on my writing a little bit there, so you have to excuse me. We learn that Hawk was chained up in her family's barn, and she's the one that freed him so he could get away. Tilly then pulls a gun on Hawk and demands to go with him on the plane while her family and fiance search for them. Tilly asks Hawk, or now known as Bix, to join her as they assume fake identities and dress up and go to a fancy party to eat. And throughout this intercut is a story of Zeke and Tilly's fiance, Tilly's fiance, who's hired the Pinkertons to find Hawk and get his bride back. Back to the party, Hawk is introduced to Mr. Rollinger as he takes Hawk to a dark room and shows him a massive neon light display. This triggers Hawk to thinking that he's being attacked by Mr. Baby, and Hawk knocks down Mr. Rollinger unconscious, and Tilly arrives. They steal Mr. Hollinger's money, kiss, and seemingly make a plan to continue to steal from the rich, I don't know, like on adventures or something as the story ends. So, again, the difference in my solicit from that solicit, my I don't know, synopsis from that one.
This is the book we read.
Yeah, I'm so very confused. So Scott Snyder, we have questions for you. Please come on the show. But Bob, let's talk about the book for a minute. This was a book.
A very long book.
Yeah, and since the book was so long, and since we have a great interview for you at the end of this, we're going to condense it down. We're not going to break it down into the individual things like we normally do. But I think that it will work perfectly for this book. So let's just talk about the story altogether, the story beats, the story narrative, dialogue, and world building. I'm gonna go ahead and start by saying I hated this the first time I read it. I really couldn't get into it, and I thought it was actually bad. I'm not a huge fan of like this type of period piece that takes place in this time. It's usually like a little too cliched for me, and I just don't agree with it. I think it was nicely done here. I like it. I like the nuance of it. I like the characters' voices, and that's really what I was scared of, especially when I opened the book and it starts talking about gaggle of people and things like that. I didn't want to hear all of that relevant slang from the 1920s, but it didn't lean into it too much, and I was okay with it. This story throws some really, really weird curveballs that I'm really confused about, and I'm guessing that's the purpose, but I think that we are either, one, supposed to think that Biggs has some bad PTSD, and that's why he was in the mental institution. That's why he broke out, and that's why he keeps seeing Mr. Baby in places where he shouldn't. Or he's actually seeing Mr. Baby, and I don't know where to go with this.
Yeah, the whole thing with Mr. Baby was like, okay, I mean, that was too advanced for back then, so what is this supposed to be?
Yeah, what's going on here?
And then it's kind of like, why did we exactly need that scene with the telephone operator?
Yeah, I agree with you. When I went and reread it, because first I read this book the night before, then I read it again the next day, and I kept thinking, I completely forgot about the fiance part. I thought that Tilly and the operator were the same person, and then I was like, oh yeah, they're not.
I kind of thought that. I kind of thought that at first too.
Yeah, it was a little odd, especially to, I don't know, have so much about the operator in here. Definitely, if it was just for him to meet her, throw her some money, and have her call over to the next town. I mean, we didn't need like 4 pages of her, but yeah, it's interesting. Maybe she'll come back up. Maybe that's why there was such an introduction to her there. I'm not sure, but I don't know. This one, it's weird, and I feel like, here's my take on it. There's got to be some more to Mr. Baby there. There definitely has to be. It can't just straight up be PTSD, because otherwise we're just reading
we're reading a diary.
Yeah, and we're just reading a romance comic, like, you know, like from World War II, like, no.
Like an old school pulpy
Yeah.
romance novel.
Yeah, so it's Scott Snyder. I don't think he's going to pitch us a straight up 1920s romance novel.
Knowing Scott Snyder, no.
Yeah, I don't think that can happen. So I think that there's got to be some more to Mr. Baby going on here. I'm just not sure what it is. Anyways, the beats work. It's a little slow at times for me, but I feel like they work. The narrative does work. I was scared of it at first. Again, that 1920s dialogue and narrative, I wasn't too sure about, but it did work. The dialogue worked. The world building worked. Everything worked here fine. Scott Snyder absolutely knows how to write a story. It was a little bit of a slow burn for me, and I have to say, if we weren't reading it for this podcast, I mean, I probably would have put the book down halfway through. So,
well, and I gotta say that the thing that just, I mean, I didn't think the book was bad, but the whole interspersing between, you know, Zeke's story and you know, Bix's story, it was kind of like, I'm sorry, Scott, but can we just focus on one person's story here?
I agree. We needed a little bit of focus. It was a little hard. This is definitely like, I think I used this term a little while ago when we talked about a book, and I can't remember exactly which one now, but it's very cinematic. This is I feel like I'm watching a movie.
Oh yeah, you could definitely see a Netflix series just made out of just this one issue.
Well, shit. I mean, I'm seeing, like, you know, Leonardo DiCaprio in the lead role. You know, like something that level. Like this is probably pretty big, but you know, we could probably. I guess if we wanted to, they're too old now, but you could bring back Leo and Kate and do a Titanic reunion and make this movie.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that, because that's exactly the vibe I got when the, you know, wife runs off with Biggs and the husband, you know, hires somebody to chase her. It's like,
exactly.
I'm thinking to myself, this seems oddly familiar. Didn't they do this almost 30 years ago?
Yeah. Yeah, this feels a lot like Titanic. I'll give you that. I know it's got to have some supernatural element to it.
You're right.
Is my only thoughts. Let's talk about the art then. Let's move over to Tula Lotay's art. And this, it's going to be hard. I know there's more credits in here than just Tula, so let me give credit where credit is due.
Yeah, please give the color credit.
Yeah, we have D. Cunniffe. I'm going to go with. I think that's good enough. Hopefully I got that name close enough. I'm not sure.
Close enough.
Yeah. And then the letters by Richard Starking. Sorry. So yeah, there are other creators involved here. But yeah, let's talk about Tula. Tula, again, a very, very famous cover artist. Very big on their watercolors and everything. It's very photorealistic looking. I don't know. Pictures that Tula paints and all of that. My first impression of Tula was, I think, on the Faithless series, which, I mean, that's a very not safe for work book, but if you're familiar with Faithless, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, just some really, really great art there, some really great depictions and everything. As far as the characters in this book, I feel like they look wonderful. I do sadly want to see a little bit more grit to it, though. It's too realistic for me. Like, again, I feel like I'm watching a movie and not reading a comic book. It almost feels like somebody took pictures of these things and just laid those out on the page.
Right.
Which is a testament to Tula's art. Like, it's very, very, very good.
Yeah.
Very precise, but I don't know. It's a little too clean for me.
I don't know. To me, it worked just because of the fact that, they're just coming out of the war, obviously.
Yep.
And, it's a more prosperous time.
Yep.
So, the art is being shown. It's not so gritty that, you have to have, it's just like dark and, there's all these bad events going on.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's not light and airy, so it still shows there's so to me, there's still enough of that grittiness, but it's not just totally like, okay, you're in the middle of wartime gritty.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's something about the photorealism here that just doesn't work for me. I really love Tula's art. I think she's phenomenal, but I just... I don't know. For some reason, it didn't translate that great for me. How about again, we're going to group this all in one here. We're going to try to make this pretty condensed. But the locations, backgrounds, and colors then. I feel like the locations really work. The backgrounds don't stick out in my mind too well. I mean, I don't feel like we get a lot of backgrounds. It's more abstract. It's absolutely more abstract than anything else I can think of that we've done before. But the backgrounds that are there, like the barn house and the woods and everything, look good. It's just, it's focused on the characters and everything else is more abstract. And then the colors, I feel like the colors pop. They look good. They work well with the way that Tula illustrates here.
To me, the colors were a great part of this book.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted you to give a shout out to the colorist.
Yeah.
Because it was the not totally drowned out sepia tone colors, but just not as vibrant. So again, to me, it just adds to that semi grittiness.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the colors do work well here. It's just I'm wondering if I don't know. Again, something about the photorealism here just kind of clashes for the story for me. I wanted to. I don't know, maybe a little more cartoony or something. I'm not too sure. Let's go ahead and ask the important question then, Bob. Are you going to continue on to issue number 2? Is this something that you see yourself reading next month?
For me, this is just weird enough for me to go to number 2.
It works for you to know want to know what's going on. I'm with you. I think it's going to be hard. I'm not going to be as excited as I was about something like Danny Ketch Ghost Rider or World Tree or some of the other books that we've talked about where we really had to know what was going to happen on the next issue. But I do want to know how this unfolds. I'm a little scared that they're going to take a really, really long time to tell the story. It's going to be such a slow burn, and then we're going to find out that he's just a little crazy and that's what's going on. I hope that that's not the take, but... Again, it's Scott Snyder, so I do have faith.
So it's going to be one of those, if you get it, you get it. If you don't, no big deal.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
I'm going to grab issue number 2. It's not going to be at the top of my reading pile, but I definitely want to crack it open and see what happens. It's going to have to move me in that second issue to continue on to issue number 3, though I can say that. But with that being said, me and Bob will definitely be picking up issue number 2. So... you guys can go ahead and look out for that in your local comic book shops as well. We will be right back after this brief break. And we are back to talk about some new comic books that are coming out next week in your local comic book shops. Bob, what do you got for them?
And again, before I start, this is where the disclaimer comes back. Some of these books may not come out, and again, these are just a few of the books off of the Key Collectors app.
Yes, and nothing from Scout, so I think you're okay.
Yes.
Go for it, Bob.
So first we have a third printing of Spider-Man number 7.
That's right. Get your Spider-Boy third printing out of the way. What's next?
A book everybody may want to pick up, Moon Knight number 25.
I don't know, man. With that $9.99 cover price, we'll see how many sell. But it does have a first appearance of
a character from the TV show.
Yeah, somebody who becomes the third Scarlet Scare. I'm not going to try to say that name.
We have from Marvel, Miles Morales, Spider-Man number 8. We have from Marvel, From DC, we have Orwell's Finest Teen Titans number 1.
Yes, a book that Bob's very excited about.
Oh, that was hard to say. Okay, and from DC, we have Night Terrors, Shazam.
First appearance of Captain Nightmare.
Night Terrors, Zatanna.
First appearance of the Sleepless Queen and Rustbringer.
Night Terrors, The Flash.
A 2-issue limited series.
Night Terrors, Robin.
The first appearance of Nightmare Robins.
Night Terrors, Green Lantern.
A 2-issue limited series.
And then Night Terrors number 1.
Oh wow, this one's an event tie-in.
Yes. Going back to Marvel, we have Web of Carnage number 1.
A one-shot in the aftermath of the Carnage Reigns event.
Sticking with Marvel, we have X-Men Days of Future Past Doomsday number 1.
A 4-issue prequel to the classic Days of Future Past story arc told in X-Men 141 and 142.
Sticking with Marvel, we have Fallen Friend number 1.
And this is just more of the death of my beloved Kamala Khan. I don't even know if I can look at that one.
And then we have Amazing Spider-Man number 29, which has a Disney 100 variant cover.
Yes, a nice black and white of Captain Marvel with, what's her name? Minnie Mouse. There we go.
We have a new What If Dark Loki number 1.
A one-shot tale in one of Asgard's worst days and one of Loki's best.
Going back to DC, we have Unstoppable Doom Patrol number 4.
Man, the first appearances do not stop in the Unstoppable Doom Patrol. This has the first appearance of Metal Woman.
I think there's been one
every single time. Yep.
And then finally from Image, we have Savage Dragon number 266.
A new story arc begins in San Francisco with new friends and foes. Wow, Savage Dragon is back. That's right, kids. Get your Savage Dragon now.
Here's hoping for heavy flow.
Well, you can always hope for heavy flow and see what happens, I guess. Bob, let's talk about what book we're going to cover next week. That's right. We have our lovely wheelofnames.com wheel here to spin off 3 names that we have chosen to cover for you guys next week and see which one wins. We have Sirens of the City, World's Finest Teen Titans, as well as Fish Flies number 1. That's right, Jeff Lemire's new Image book. Let's see which one wins the prize of being discussed by Bob and I next week. It looks like we are covering Sirens of the City, issue number 1. It's got a very nice... Jenny Frison, there we go. Jenny Frison cover on it. So I'm at least excited about that. Should be a fun book. We'll be right back. Hello and welcome back to the all new, all different number 1 comics podcast. This is episode number 26. We are talking to 2 very amazing, talented creators here. We have Lonnie Nadler and Jenna on. Hello, you guys. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to speak to us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
To chatting, and nice to meet you guys. Nice to be here.
Yeah, very good to meet you guys. We're definitely excited to talk about you guys' newest project, which is The Sickness from Uncivilized Books. We, of course, want to go into some other things as well, but I'd like to definitely ask, like right off the bat, Lonnie, how did you get involved in writing? Like, where did you start in writing? And then, of course, Jenna, I want to go to you with art as well. So,
yeah, my journey writing has been interesting in that I've written in a lot of different mediums.
Mm-hmm.
But since I was a kid, like I remember reading it was a Roald Dahl book called The Twits that was illustrated by Quentin Blake. And I was like, I don't know, 7 years old. And I remember loving it and bringing it to my parents and being like, this is what I want to do. Like, I want to write and draw the pictures.
Yep.
And that kind of it didn't really leave. I didn't, as I got older and as I became a teenager, I didn't think that was a viable career really.
Mhm.
So I had other things that I was like, oh, maybe I'll be a lawyer or something.
Something that pays a lot of money.
Yeah, but the desire to write and do creative stuff never left me. And so went to university I studied philosophy and English, and that's when I started taking writing more seriously. I was
Mhm.
writing short stories. I was writing comic book reviews and movie reviews for a website. And then after that, I started taking courses in writing fiction. And as all that was going on, I was also still making zines that I was drawing and writing myself or with friends. And after about a year of taking that pretty seriously, I was like, I don't want to be a lawyer. I want to do this. So yeah, I just continued in school, went to film school for a while, was in the film industry, was doing documentary work. And all this time I was still working on comics as journalism was kind of paying my bills for a while.
Mhm.
And then it's 2017, I think, 2016, started making like real pitches for comics. And I was like, okay, I got to start sending stuff to publishers if I want this to actually happen. And made some really crazy pitches that in hindsight, nobody should have ever greenlit. But, thankfully Black Mask at the time was looking for transgressive stuff, and the fact that me and Zach, who was I wrote a bunch of this stuff with, was also a journalist, and they liked that we had that as part of our background. And so they took a risk on it, and just have tried not to stop publishing comics ever since then, and it's worked out so far. But yeah, writing has been a part of my life since I was really, really young.
Awesome. And you, Jenna, how did you begin? Where did you get involved in art and then comics as well and all of that?
Yeah, I grew up reading a lot of newspaper comics. My obsession as a child was Calvin and Hobbes.
Okay.
And like just kind of the general world of newspaper strips and stuff. And as I do more of these podcasts and I answer this question, I'm like learning more and more about myself as I'm like saying it all out loud.
It
And
brings you back. You're like, wait.
yeah, right. I'm like I've been like slowly psychoanalyzing myself throughout the interview process of promoting the sickness. So I always would say like it's funny that I loved Calvin and Hobbes as a kid because my work could be it can't be more different than that style now.
Sure.
But I'm realizing like comic strips, especially Calvin and Hobbes, are some of the purest forms of the comic language in terms of sequencing, and the manipulation of time and space and movement and stuff. So, it makes sense that something like newspaper strips would, inspire any comic lover to get into that stuff. So, it wasn't until 2003 or 2002 when the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man came out, when I was introduced to superhero comics, and then that kind of opened up the world to me outside of newspaper comics. And throughout all of this, I'm always drawing my own comics. Like I have like reams and reams and reams of wasted computer paper, much to my family's chagrin, of stupid little cartoons that I do. And then the next like major phase in my comic life was when I accidentally stumbled upon Uzumaki by Junji Ito when I was in middle school. And that comic is literally a printed out page of Uzumaki printed out by one of my friends that she took to school one day. And just that one page, like, I can't put into words how badly it traumatized me, but it did. And I didn't get over my fear of Junji Ito until I was in my, I don't know, mid-20s. So so I kind of had these, phases of comics, and all the while I'm constantly drawing. Like the only thing I was ever interested in or good at was drawing in any capacity. Still the only thing I've ever been really good at. I knew early on that I didn't have it in me to be a lawyer, so I didn't even entertain that idea ever. And then as I was taking community college classes, I was in community college for 3 years trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a filmmaker, a photographer. At some point, I wanted to be a novelist. I was kind of bouncing between all of these things. Namely, I wanted to be a filmmaker because it never occurred to me that comics was even an option, even though it was something that I loved very, very deeply my whole life. It wasn't until in one of my classes, one of my community college drawing classes, my teacher doubled as a comic instructor. And I was like, what? You can take a class for comics? That's crazy. And then after that, I discovered the Minneapolis College of Art and Design, which has a comic course, which you can get a degree in. And that was like, wow, you can get a degree in comics? That's crazy.
Yes.
And I think Minneapolis College of Art and Design was one of the few colleges that had you can get a course in comics. I don't know if that's like getting more popular now or not, but yeah, weirdly, it wasn't until I realized that colleges took comics seriously to some degree when I decided this is something that I wanted to do. So I went to Minneapolis College of Art and Design with the intention of getting my degree in illustration because that was quote unquote better for my resume. And then I would take all of the comic classes so that I can do the thing that I wanted to do, even though I knew that probably wasn't good for my career. Still isn't really. It's not really a viable career, but anyway. But then once, like my first year, I took a comic course, and I was like, okay, fuck it, I'm gonna get a degree in comics. So that's what happened.
Well, that's very cool. I can only imagine being able to go to school for comics, being able to kind of like major in comic book creating and all of that. I'm not familiar enough with manga or manga. I never say that correctly either. So I'm always the person that says that the incorrect way. But I am very familiar with who you're talking about. Whenever you said you had that printout, you'll have to tell me the name again because I'll completely
Junji Ito.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
we'll let you say that because I
okay.
But yes, but yeah, I appreciate the fact that you brought that up. And again, not knowing much about manga or manga, I again am familiar with that creator. I've read a few things, seen a few things here and there. I have. And this has been, discussed. I'm not. It's not like I'm discovering anything new here or anything like that. But there is some stylized elements in here that kind of remind me of some of that. There aspects of the storytelling, the slow burn, the unfolding, and everything of the sickness that seem at the very least inspired. Definitely not. This is its own thing. I mean, it's not like either of you is taking anything from that, but yeah, maybe somewhat inspired. So I assume maybe you're a little bit into that as well, Lonnie.
Oh yeah, I read Junji Ito's stuff when I was in. I don't remember if it was when I was at the end of high school or the beginning of university. Popular than it is.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, why is this stuff so popular? Because the translation were so bad.
No, it didn't matter. Like I thought the stories were like bizarre, but the
it's a Junji Ito sticker.
Yeah.
Sorry.
On your cup there. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was just kind of like whoa, horror comics can be really scary and evocative and slow and moody. And I actually now prefer at least my memory of the fan translations to some of the actual translations because they feel like very cleaned up now. But
I see.
I liked the almost disconnected dreaminess of how I initially read a lot of the comics.
Yeah, they're very interesting, and like you guys said, they're pretty terrifying. There's not like a lot of times that I can think when reading, sequential art, when reading, at least American comics or whatever, that I'm reading a horror book and I'm like genuinely terrified. It's more, a little bit more mainstream than that or whatever. Usually that doesn't happen, but yeah, absolutely. In that stuff, it's pretty terrifying. It's pretty crazy sometimes the stuff that's put out. And again, like going back to the sickness here, it does have that slow burn to it and everything, but this has, I mean, how you guys were able to create jump scares in a comic book like completely just blows my mind. That's not something that's really synonymous with the storytelling in a comic book, and you guys absolutely achieved that here. So props to you guys. But yeah, I would hate to read this like, when I'm home alone and it's like a dark, it's like midnight or something. I'm like, all right, I'm going to read this comic book and go to bed. You're not going to bed. Like it's not going to happen. This is a terrifying comic. It's very scary. So
thank you.
Yeah,
that's really nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You guys definitely accomplished that. So.
I just want to, if this, we'll talk about Junji Ito for the whole thing if someone needs to cut us off, but this is the last thing I'll say. I remember Junji Ito has that like kind of jump scare quality where you turn the page and then in your face is like a fucking like, horrifying image. I remember, oh my God, it was, I was like in my mid-20s, like I was in school. It was the first Junji Ito book I bought with my own money. Like before then I literally couldn't read Junji Ito books because I'd be too scared. So I'd like read them in bits and pieces because I loved the art. And like on Google Images, I would look up Junji Ito art, and then after 2 minutes, I'd get like fight or flight terror, and I'd have to I'd have to shut down the computer and like walk out my house. I remember when I bought the book, I was so scared of turning the page that I would like hold out my book in front of me, like at arm's distance, and like kind of tilt the book up and then turn the page so that I couldn't really see. Like I would like hold it kind of like this, like at arm's length, and like look away as I turned the page, just because I didn't want to get like hit with a scary image.
Yeah, there's some horrifying stuff in there. Like I said, I mean, it's an accomplishment to make something like a comic book or a manga, however you correctly say that, and really accomplish that terrifying feel. I think that's just an accomplishment that not a lot of people can do. But yeah, like you said, Junji Ito.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Let's call it manga.
Okay, manga.
Manga,
Nice.
like
Yeah.
man, like MA, like let's go right in the middle between
Okay,
manga
good,
and manga.
good.
Let's go.
I'm gonna get so many emails and comments.
Yeah.
Either way, they're gonna be like, "Listen, here's how you say it." But yeah, to evoke that just in your storytelling, in your illustration, and then in your storytelling is just an amazing feat. So I definitely give you guys a lot of props for that. I'm going to bounce back and forth, but I have this will probably be an oddball question for you guys. Feel free to elaborate as much or as little as possible, but
we like oddball questions.
Good, because there's some. I mean, I don't know. This might not be one, but is there a dream project out there? Is there anything? And when I say dream project, because the answer everybody gives me when I say this is like, yeah, to have my own creator-owned stuff. That's not what I'm looking for. You got to give me like, yeah, I want Spider-Man over, like I want like that kind of answer. Like, is there anything, established that's a dream project for either of you or you guys together? Anything like that that's just something you've always dreamed of working on?
I mean, my opinion on it has like changed a lot over the years. So when I was doing Marvel work, it was like when I was a kid, like X-Men was everything to me.
Yeah,
likewise. And so getting to write X-Men comics was like seriously like it was like, holy shit, I can't believe this is happening. My my childhood self would die if he knew that I would get to write X-Men when I was older. So that was a pretty big dream come true. It came with a lot of restraints because, you know, Marvel is a big company and they have
Absolutely.
stuff that they want to accomplish. So I wouldn't say I got to like tell the exact X-Men story that I wanted, but to be able to write characters that I grew up loving, like Storm and Magneto and Nate Gray, was like, yeah, it was almost a surreal experience. And just being able to write those characters and immediately know their voices was something I'd never experienced writing before, because all my other stuff was creator owned up until then. So that was super cool. And now there's not a whole lot of projects like that I have in mind. I think the one that I've got is like, I think I've got a pretty good Superman story, and I don't even like Superman that much, but I've got a really good Superman pitch that, you know, maybe one day will happen.
I agree. It's very good. Gets my approval.
Yeah, we'll see. But I used to want to like
one day.
Yeah, I used to want to write, like, I grew up loving Animal Man and Swamp Thing.
Oh God, yeah, two of my favorite characters ever at DC.
Yeah, and like, you know, that was a dream for me to be able to, like, I wanted to make that stuff. But now I'm like, but I could never reach the heights of Moore or Morrison. And I'm like, I think I would just be sad trying to write those characters, because I would never live up to those expectations. So I would never want to write characters that I have that much of a love for, but there's some other ones that I like. Superman, where I didn't grow up liking Superman, but now I'm like, okay, I think I could do something unique there. So.
Yeah, I like that a lot. That Bob and I were just talking a little while ago about one of my favorite characters is Man-Thing, actually, from Marvel. So it has been for a really long time. And we were discussing different authors and stuff like that. And I let Bob know that R.L. Stine wrote a Man-Thing mini, and he didn't know about that. And I kind of went over the story with him. And I'm like, yeah,
that's awesome.
It's really fun, but it's
like
it's a huge swing, and it's a miss, but it's a huge swing. And I'm like, that's what you got to do. You know, if you're gonna come in and write Man-Thing as R.L. Stine, you can't just write like a Steve Gerber like Man-Thing story. Like you gotta aim high, and it was off the wall and very weird, but it was his take on it, and I can appreciate it for that. But yeah, I get what you're saying. So how about you, Jenna? Is there anything that
I don't know. I can't, off the top of my head, I can't really think of like IP necessarily. Like a dream IP. I have like my own impossible ideas that I would want, that I know are impossible. I have an idea for a comic that I really want to do. Do you guys listen to Dead Kennedys?
Yes.
Or do you know? I have, my dream project is to do a comic based around the song Cesspools in Eden.
Okay.
Because it's and it would be set in California, because I'm from California. And so my like nostalgia for California, I'm realizing at this point in my life, has a lot to do with realizing how much of California is about like pollution and like pervasive like garbage dumps and like just like nuclear waste sites and stuff like that. So I really connect to a song like Cesspools in Eden. And so my dream is to do a song based on, or to do a comic based on that, where I would get Jello Biafra to co-write it. And he would get these and he would have these like inserts of like deranged monologues of like and like spoken word madness like in between chapters or whatever. Never gonna happen, but you know, I can dream.
You can't say never. There's a huge possibility it could happen.
I know a guy. One of my friends did a comic for Melvins.
Oh wow!
Like he was like you know, collabing with like Buzzo and stuff. I was like, how the fuck did you do that? And I think he just met like a guy who worked at their label or something at a bar, and they just like started chatting about shit. And it's like, oh, you could just do that. And so now I'm kind of just want to like reach out to Alternative Tentacles and be like, hey, fuck it, you know, what's the worst thing that happened?
just show up at somewhere that Jello Biafra is, and
Yeah.
you know,
Well,
just
San
kind of.
Francisco, dude, I'm going to San Francisco in like a week and a half.
Does he
Like,
live there?
yeah,
Oh, I
yeah.
didn't know
There
that.
Oh
you
yeah.
go.
Oh, and Mike Patton.
Oh,
They
no,
both
'cause
live there.
didn't Jello Biafra run for mayor at some point?
Yeah, he did
Yep.
for San
I
Francisco.
remember that. Yeah. So look, this could be the first ramblings of a comic book that's about to come out, and we're just learning about it now here on the All New, All Different Number One Comics podcast. So exclusive first right here. When
Yeah.
it gets published, you owe me and Bob a signed copy.
Okay,
But,
no problem. Yeah.
yeah,
First class
that's
mail.
very cool. Awesome. Another question that has to do with somewhere in the same realm there. Are there any characters or publishers that are like that would be completely off limits for either of you? Whether it be for, I don't know, just personal reasons or whatever.
In terms of characters, I mean, there's probably a lot I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole, but those are mostly like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of an example, but there's just characters I know absolutely nothing about, and I would not even want to try because I know the fan base exists, and I wouldn't want to I don't know, I wouldn't want to piss people off. I see the Hulk poster behind you, Bob, and I'm like, I don't think I got a Hulk story. And in terms of publishers, like, to be fully transparent, there's a lot I wouldn't work with, and that's strictly based on stuff like the way I know they run their business operations and their contracts, where I'm at a point in my career where I'm not interested in working for pennies or working for exposure or working for publishers whose line of books I don't find merit in. So without naming names, there's I thankfully am at a point in my career where I can be somewhat picky about who I'm working with.
Yeah, that's how I interpreted the question too. Like, what is a hard no for publishers you'd work with? And I agree with Lonnie on that sentiment. Also, won't name names.
Yeah, sure.
But so I just started reading the Elric books.
Okay.
Michael Moorcock, and those books are so unbelievably good, and I'm realizing it's like so immediately obvious just how influential they were to the world of fantasy in every single piece of media. And I'm surprised that Elric hasn't been made into like a fucking Amazon show yet or whatever. But because now it's just like you're just going down the line of, famous fantasy IP. Elric is so good and so fucking weird and so trippy and like psychedelic that if I found out it would be made into a movie or TV show or even a comic, like I know there was a comic. Yeah, there was like was it P. Craig Russell?
For a long time.
But who's like, what's like the really trip? I think it's P. Craig Russell or something, or Steve Bissett or one of those guys. Ones, yeah, those are cool because they're just as trippy and psychedelic and weird as the books. But yeah, the day I find out it's like a Netflix show or an HBO show or an Amazon show, I'm like, I'm leaving this planet and I am off the grid officially. It's like, don't come near me with that shit. That is for the books and for comics, but not for TV show.
Yeah, well, sadly, I'm sure at some point they'll try to adapt.
Oh, they definitely, yes, 100%. Yeah,
if it's not already happening right now, soon to be.
Yeah, starring Henry Cavill.
Probably, if you can't be Superman, well, at least.
Yeah,
I want to ask you guys, and correct me if I'm wrong. This is just stuff you read on the internet, so you guys would have the authority on this. But I've heard that you guys shopped around the sickness to like multiple publishers, and a lot of them didn't want the long form. Or let me be fair. Let me not say they didn't want, but they didn't know if they would be able to sell it in like the long form that you guys presented it in. That they wanted you to condense it down, maybe but. Of course, that they really love the story because how could they not? But they weren't particularly keen on like selling it in that way. So how did you guys end up at Uncivilized. I mean, I'm guessing it's probably because they didn't want to compromise your vision at all. But and like, what can you tell us about that experience? Because we do have a good amount of listeners that are aspiring creators and stuff. So we like to get whatever insight we can passed along to them.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's an important discussion because nobody really talks about like there's advice for pitching, but nobody really talks about like the process of it and how it works. I think it might have been a little bit misrepresented elsewhere, but we brought the pitch to 3 other publishers in total. One of which sat on it for a long time and they liked it, but yeah, it was eventually kind of we don't know if this can work and sustain itself for 14 issues. So we brought it to a second publisher and it was the same thing where they liked it, but it was, okay, can you do this in 5 issues? And we were like, no. It's like, okay, I maybe understand asking to go from 14 to 12, but to go from 14 to 4 or 5, we were like, that's crazy. We can't do that. And then we brought it to another publisher, to an editor that I worked with previously, and they liked it, but unfortunately some
stuff happened.
Some stuff happened and that editor ended up leaving the publisher. So we were just kind of like, we were at a point where we were running out of places we wanted to bring it because we wanted to maintain ownership of the work.
So that kind of limited our options.
Yeah. And we were I had been saying we should bring it to Uncivilized from the beginning because I knew Jenna knew Tom, who runs Uncivilized. And he's always said to Jenna, like, the door's open whenever you want to pitch something. But Jenna always was hesitant because she felt that our work, or her work in particular, was not quote unquote artistic enough for what Uncivilized publishes, because they, typically publish a lot of autobio and a lot of more indie stuff. Like, it's like Noah Van Sciver and Gabrielle Bell and like, these amazing lauded cartoonists. And so our work the sickness is weird because it's like, it's not that it doesn't fit into that camp, but it's also not exactly the same as that kind of stuff. But for me,
you can say the same for quote unquote mainstream comics too.
Yeah. So I was just like, just kept pushing Jenna, and I was like, can we please just bring this to Tom?
I'm an extremely stubborn person.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And yeah, and I spiral like Uzumaki.
Eventually we brought it to Tom, and I think it was just a few days later he emailed us back and was like, "Yep, this looks good." We had a call with him the next week, and he didn't even like the 14 issues was not a problem with him. He was like, "Yeah, we're looking for something longer format because Ginseng Roots was coming to an end." And he was like, "We want something else to fill that kind of long format book in our catalog." So it was like good timing that it worked out. And Tom was always just kind of, yeah, do whatever you want. Like, I like the book. I trust you. Clearly the first issue is good. So I have no doubt you'll continue to hold up the quality. And there's not a lot of publishers that put that trust in their creatives, to not put their fingers in everything. And it's been really rewarding for us to do it this way.
Yeah, I can imagine, especially being able to circle back around to the publisher that maybe you like originally intended for. It has to be a really cool feeling as well. And then they're the one publishing. Another question about that I have is, how do you guys feel knowing that, it was kind of shopped around a little bit? People didn't, or at least some publishers, maybe wanted to condense it down a little bit, tell your story in a different way, kind of compromise your vision and everything. And now at this point, it's on everybody's top 10 list. It's on everybody's top 20. It's like, it's got to be at least pretty rewarding, at least a good, like, told you so, like, just trust me.
Feels good.
I really have to imagine. I mean, the book is absolutely blowing up. It's sold out everywhere. Look, Bob and I wanted to cover it on the podcast because, what we do is we take a brand new first issue comic book every week. and we break it down, and then we tell our listeners if they should move on to issue number 2 or not. We weren't even able to cover the book because the shop that we go to got one copy, and it was mine. So I didn't even have a copy to give to Bob until we, recorded this podcast to talk to you
Apologies.
guys. Yeah, but it's sold out everywhere. Everybody wants a copy of this book. It's blown up on the secondary market. All the comic book investing sites and stuff like that are all talking about it. So how does it feel to be like, the buzz, right?
I don't know how that fucking happened.
Yeah, it's
who are you people? Who are you people buying this weird book? Where did this come from?
There's a lot of them.
It's a really interesting question for me because I'm trying to think of like the best way to answer this because it's like, yeah, it's vindicating.
Yep.
But for me, and I feel like I can say this because I don't draw the book. It's like I knew the vision of the book. I knew exactly what it was, and I knew it was something that was worth pursuing.
Yep.
And it was like a couple years where we were in limbo, and there were times when Jenna was like, yeah, I don't think this is going to happen, but I was always like, no, I believe in this book. I know our vision is good, and we just have to stick to that, and eventually it will happen, whether that's through a publisher or whether we decide to like kickstart it or whatever.
Yep.
I was like, I've made 12 books at this point in my career. I know a good book when I have it. And so, yeah, I was just really also stubborn, and I was like, no, like this is the vision for the book, and it will get picked up eventually. And especially as we started sharing it with some of our friends for feedback, like other creators in the industry, the unanimous feedback we got from them was, yeah, this is good. This is like, yeah, we like your other work. Your other work's really good, but this is like special. This is the thing that feels like it's really both you and Jenna, and your vision is uncompromised. And so for me, it was like, yes, I know that what is in my brain makes sense, and I can pull this stuff off, or we can pull this stuff off. I know there's 14 issues to go, and like we might blow it in the end.
Yeah, let's not speak too soon.
At least for an issue 1. And yeah, it's just vindicating, less so in the sense of it's blowing up and doing well, but more so in the sense of I know a good story when I have one, and I don't have to like doubt myself at this point.
Yeah, it was harder for me to it's still hard for me to kind of wrap my head around that. It's weird, like my perspective's kind of weird because the book is like a lot more precious to me, and I conceived it in 2016, and I kind of made it. I committed to the book once I like kind of gave it its form in 2017. So I've been working on it for a long time, and I brought it to Lonnie. I pitched it to Lonnie once I started. Once I signed on for Black Stars Above in 2019. So it's been a long time coming. It's like it's been in my life for a good enough while at this point that it's kind of hard for me to transition it from being more than just this thing I have. Like it was this thing that I kind of nurtured, and eventually became something that Lonnie nurtured, and it was just this entity in our life, and then now I kind of have to externalize it, and it has to kind of go outside myself, and it's out there in the open, in the world. So the grappling with that is like kind of hard for me, just because it's like it's so personal and it makes sense to me. It has meaning and value to me. Whether or not it has meaning and value to other people is something that like it's just kind of psychologically and spiritually it's kind of hard to live with that. So it's a process. You know, it's literally the first issue is out, and we have 13 more to go. That'll take at least another 2 years of my life. So it's just begun. Like, you know, this whole process. Yeah. So when it came to our publisher telling us about the numbers and stuff, you know, telling us that he's sold out, Diamond sold out, it was just kind of like, I think I kind of just like blanked. Like I think my like animal reaction was just kind of freeze up.
Yep.
Like when you clap in a goat's face and they just kind of like get paralyzed and they could just fall over. That's just me. I'm just like, dude, I just gotta draw the thing. You know, I just gotta co-write and draw the thing. Like, I don't know anything else about anything. You know, like that's all I know what to do with myself. Just draw the thing and write it.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, you guys definitely accomplished something there. It's, of course, you're telling the story you want to tell, and the story that's, you know, been with you for a while now, like you just explained. But yes, to say, you know, I don't personally flip books. I'm not like a comic book speculator in that way. But, you know, being adjacent to a lot of them, I mean, this is everybody's, oh God, how did you get a copy of The Sickness? You know, it's just everybody wants a copy of this thing.
That goes so over my head.
Yeah.
Where I'm just like, you're selling this for how much? Like,
Yeah,
are
exactly.
you sure?
Yeah. It's almost like don't open up eBay and look at the most recent sales.
It's so weird.
Book, so
where the fuck does this come from?
You'd be like, hold on,
Oh
where's some of that cash for me? But
yeah, right.
Yeah,
True.
it's
True.
interesting. It's like a lot of comic book creators have like a weird hatred for some of the people who flip books, but I talked to James Tynion about it once, and he explained it as like, yeah, you know, you might not benefit from the sales directly, but they create it's like you're sort of also dependent on them, and they feed the industry just in a different way.
Yeah,
absolutely. And so it was kind of intentional, not in that we were trying to like, I don't know, game the market or anything, but when it came to variants, I was very insistent that we had multiple variants and that we got them from artists who were people that we really liked and had wanted to work with for a long time.
Yes.
But also that we knew would just do a good cover that would appeal to people and represent the book. And, you know, to stagger it out in terms of like, okay, there's this many of this cover, this many of this cover. It's just something you have to consider these days as a creator of that like business side of stuff.
Sure.
And I'm not a businessman. I don't know what I'm doing, but I know enough about comics at this point after collecting them and working on them for like the more than half of my life.
Yeah, businessman by proxy.
Yeah, because it's
Guilty
like,
by
you know,
association.
Because I would go into a shop, and if I would see a Sam Wolf Connolly cover, I would buy it. So the opportunity to get a cover from him was like, and everyone else was like really cool for us.
Yeah, we were like, who's the most, you know, who's the artist who can land a place in the G rating, in the PG rating, in the PG-13 rating, in the R rating, in the X rating? Shintaro Kago. He'll appeal to everybody. Everybody, all ages will buy The Sickness because of Mr. Kago.
Yeah, well, look, it's definitely a book. I mean, I would say, you know, younger readers might be a little uncomfortable with some of the material, but
hey, you know what?
Anybody can read this book.
I mean, look at the world around us.
Exactly.
They have access to TikTok. They can handle our fucking comic.
Yes,
you know.
I agree. Yeah, but it's. I mean, I can't sit here and you know, say enough good things about it. It's very wonderfully written, really wonderfully illustrated, and all of that. Jenna, this might be a question more pointed at you, but of course, you know, if either of you has anything to say about it, please chime in. We learned just last week, whenever Secret Invasion came out, that Marvel was using AI in the beginning credits. Yeah, I don't know if you haven't heard that yet or not, but yeah, Marvel commissioned AI generated art for the opening credits of Secret Invasion.
I'm not surprised. Who the fuck is surprised by that?
Yeah.
Inevitable.
We talked last week to Raphael Albuquerque about that. We talked a little bit earlier to Sue Lee about the same thing, to get their opinions. I'd love to hear your opinion, and of course, if you have one, Lonnie, as well. What you think about that. Of course, a lot of backlash for people heavily invested in the comic book community, because this is, while it's Marvel Studios, and it's not directly related to the comics. I mean, none of it exists without the comics, and you're putting a job that should have gone to an artist in the hands of AI. So
it's funny. Great question to ask, because last night we watched a Twilight Zone episode.
Mm-hmm.
Old Twilight Zone.
Old Twilight Zone. This was 1950.
That's the only Twilight Zone to watch.
Yeah, yes. Exactly. Yeah, right. It was 1959, and the whole episode was about this
factory.
This corporation owner who acquires a supercomputer to replace everyone's job, basically. So he fires hundreds of people just so that this one computer can do everyone's job, and they can save them a lot of money. And then at the end of the episode, it's I'll spoil it. It's from 1959. Sure. You all had 70 years to watch it. At the end of the episode, the guy is miserable because there still has to be someone manning the computers, and he's the only person to do that. And he becomes extremely lonely, and he basically loses his humanity, and he kind of has this breakdown of an epiphany that it's the act of creation made by humans that gives value to to every point of
community,
industry,
connection.
Economy, whatever. Not being lonely is a huge factor in a good workforce.
And then he loses his job.
And then exactly. Yeah. And the whole episode, people are trying to argue with this guy, being but what about man? What about man's creation? Look at these hands. These hands can do anything, blah, blah, blah. It's just oh my God. You just replaced the word computer with AI, with Midjourney, and it would be just as relevant today.
That's always the sad thing about Twilight Zone episodes, is you like to think that all that stuff is these wild ideas, and they're left in the past and everything. And no, most of them still apply. So.
Yep. All of them. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. I think it's just been unfortunate the way that it's, because the technology itself is amazing. It's just unfortunate the way that it's been so constantly these companies insist on doing this stuff unethically, when all artists and writers are asking for is just don't be a jerk. Just think of the people that this impacts, and make some rules around what's okay, what's not, and we're willing to work with you. But they don't seem very interested in engaging in a conversation. So that's, for me, kind of the end of it, at least as it stands now. And there's two things. There's the Miyazaki quote where he says using it as an insult to life itself. And as an artist, I relate to that, because art is the process of the making, not the end product. So it's not art to me if there's no process involved.
Yep.
And then also yesterday I feel like every interview I've done, I've quoted Guillermo del Toro in some way.
It's fine. It's fine.
But yeah, he did an interview recently, because I have these conversations with people all the time at work and stuff. And there's always this mentality of, oh, don't be scared of AI. Me as a writer, I'm not scared.
We're not.
It. That's not the problem. And Del Toro yesterday said he's not afraid of artificial intelligence. He's afraid of natural stupidity. And that resonated with me.
Yeah, right. I mean, my sentiments are no different from most people's fucking. I have nothing new to say about this. I have no take or anything. It's funny, just I know at some point there was a really stupid fucking thing where someone did a Midjourney on Kim Jong-ji,
Mhm.
like his style
Oh,
when
yeah.
he died.
Like a day after he
Yeah, a
died.
day after he died, and it's like, look
Yeah.
how like similar it looks, blah 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 and stuff. And this is like hopefully I hope this doesn't sound like vain or anything. Like I'm not trying to be vain, but I just imagine trying to like get Midjourney to make The Sickness, you know, and just imagining like my style trying to be replicated,
Mhm.
which like, you know, maybe it could, but that idea is just like funny to me. You know, you can never make anything meaningful with AI. Like just like you said, like, you know, if there's no humanity in it, then it's like an uncanny valley of the soul.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
And
like
that's how they always end up coming out. That's been our conclusion almost every time we've asked the
yeah,
question. It's not. I don't feel like it's a vain statement to make. I completely agree with you. My favorite artists, you know, Bill Sienkiewicz or Mike Allred or you know some of these people, Tyler Crook. Like there's so much of them in that art. You're not nothing's going to replicate that.
mhm.
Nothing's going to replicate what you do at all. They can pick little bits and pieces and make some uncanny thing that doesn't match up and try to Frankenstein a
Mhm.
Jenna piece, but it's not going to
Yeah,
work. You know, it's not going to be used.
yeah,
So yeah, completely
yeah.
agree.
The most valuable best thing that AI is used for is making a meme where Elvis Presley sings Sir Mix-a-Lot songs, and it sounds just like Elvis.
I've not heard that one, so I'll definitely have to
It's
check that
pretty
out. That's
scary.
yeah. Well, I know what I'm doing tonight, so
Yep.
yeah, that's awesome. I want to get into. We won't take up too much more of your time. I know we're almost at an hour here, anyways, and I said we try to keep it short so we don't keep you guys all night. But of course, you guys seem very collaborative. Of course, working together here on Black Stars Above. As well, Lonnie, you've done a lot of work with Zach Thompson. We'd love to know, you know, how that process works. Collaborating with, of course, most comics are collaborations most of the time. At the very least, an artist and a writer working together at its bare bones, but usually a lot more than that. You have editors, a lot of times color, uh, all of that stuff. So whenever you've worked on a piece, say with Zach Thompson or something, how does that collaborative process take place? It seems like you guys obviously really enjoy it because you guys have done it quite a few times. But yeah, I'd like to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, for sure. All the
Zach didn't put a ring on it, so that's why they don't.
Well,
yeah, Zach and I, we loved working together.
Mhm.
Zach, part of the reason we're not is because he moved to the other side of the country and it's just been
Okay.
harder. But
Sure.
we did have a book we were working on together at Aftershock that is now
Whoops.
unfortunately kind of lost in
Wah, wah.
the bankruptcy stuff, but hopefully we'll be able to revive it. It's kind of related to some of the AI stuff we were talking about. Just in that, for me, art is a means of connection and it's a means of creating community.
Mhm.
And for me, my most successful and enjoyable collaborations are those with Jenna and with Zach.
Mhm.
And it's because they were fully collaborative. When Zach lived here in Vancouver, I would go to his house or he would come to my house 5 days a week.
Mhm.
We'd sit down beside each other in the same Google Doc and we would just, work on the script together, talk it out, eat pizza, fart, do things,
Yeah.
and write comics. And it was really fulfilling, especially because we were on the same page so much with the stuff we were trying to tell and our inspirations. And Jenna and I, we have the benefit of living together, but it's very much the same type of collaboration where we sit down together, same document, we're working on the script together, we're working on layouts together. Jenna's like, hey, I'm drawing this page, can you look at it for a second? And it's it's just always having that communication open. And I've found comics that I've done where this isn't always the case, but when there's not that communication, not that direct, not that you have to be like best friends, but just an openness to speak to one another. as close relations, as collaborators. It just never feels as good. And I think you can, as a reader, you can tell that in the product when the two sides aren't fully matching together. So obviously I'm in a pretty ideal situation now. And even still, when Zach and I work together, it's like we don't work together separately. We get on a Zoom call, we write as we're both on Zoom. And that's it.
Very cool.
Yeah, I don't have much more to say. Like, I've tried to collaborate other ways, and like passing scripts back and forth, or someone writes half the issue and other person writes the other half of the issue, and I just don't really enjoy it as much. Often ends up feeling like someone's putting in more work than the other person, or you read the other person's work and you're like, wait a second, I thought we agreed on something else. It's I don't recommend co-writing stuff to most people unless you have someone that you can really put that trust in.
Sure. And Jenna, I think, another question that I have for you, again, I won't take up too much of you guys' time now, but when we were talking to Sue Lee today, and we talked a little bit about her book over at Dynamite, where she's doing Disney Villains Maleficent, I had learned today, sadly, after I've already read 2 issues of the book, that I knew she was the illustrator on the book, but I didn't know she was the writer until today. So I felt very, very bad about that. Is there ever a time that you can think where you'd be comfortable illustrating and writing your own project, like the entire thing yourself? Is that anything you've ever done? How does that process work for you?
That's the only thing I want to do.
Okay.
That is an ideal situation for me. Not that this isn't ideal.
Sure.
The sickness would not be. The sickness would be a completely different book, and not in a good way. If Lonnie wasn't on board. But I've had a couple other projects that I want to do eventually, where I would write and draw. I have some of those things I've also worked on for a long time, since school, even longer than school. I have it all locked and loaded. It's just, I just need to wait for the opportune time and the opportunity to do so. I really think I'm fine with doing a couple, side things with other writers, not including Lonnie. Lonnie is the only writer that I would be willing to work with long term. I think the way that we jive in terms of storytelling and in terms of what we want to achieve is just incomparable to any other. I can't imagine doing that with any other person just as easily, so
I tricked her into
played the long
con.
There's that lawyer in him that got me, and then since I didn't have anything in my skill set except art, I fell for it.
You did good, Lonnie.
Yeah, great. And then so I eventually want to write and draw my own books, and for the time being, the only person I'm really willing to write with is Lonnie. Happy to do short collaborations in the future and stuff like that, but in terms of my life missions and the things I really want to achieve and fulfill for myself, is all that stuff. So yeah.
Very cool. Well, look, this has been absolutely great. I really appreciate you guys carving out the time to talk to us today. It's been awesome to get to talk to the 2 creators of The Sickness here. Very excited about that. And of course, now we all know we can look forward to a Lonnie and Jenna Superman story coming up soon for DC Comics out 2023.
2023.
We're all looking forward to that. But please let our listeners know where they can find you guys. I'll also, of course, be putting links to all of that in the show notes. But please let them know where they can find you guys. Anything else you want to say to them, please?
Boy, it's always a real chore to have to spell out my stupid social media handles. So on Twitter, my handle is Kale_Satan.
I love that.
Satan as in Satan.
Mhm.
And then Instagram, my handle is jangling_Jack. I'm sorry. I made those handles 10 years ago when I didn't think my career would go anywhere. So I just chose the things I liked and I haven't changed them since.
Hey, understood. Be happy that your podcast doesn't have like 8 words in the titles.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram and on Twitter, just at Lonnie Nadler.
Yeah, because Lonnie's a smart person and he changed his handles to be more,
He's even got a .com, so just
Yeah.
there's that too. But where can people? Of course, like I said before, you can't go out to most of your local comic book shops and pick up a copy of The Sickness #1, but you can request them on your pull list for issues #2 and 3 and all of that. Hopefully, if the final order cutoff hasn't already passed, but. Yeah, where else can they? I'm sorry. When can we be looking forward to issue #2?
Yeah.
Well, issue 1 is going to be resolicited.
So there's going to be a reprint of #1.
There will be a reprint. Yeah.
Very cool.
There will be. So none of the covers will be reprinted. It'll be a different cover.
Amazing. More covers have to collect next.
Yeah. Flip those book guys.
So yeah, new printing of #1 will come out, and that should be available to order through. I think it's already available through Lunar, but Diamond will have it soon.
Very cool.
And issue 2 will be out in September, which is a long wait. It wasn't our intention.
Yeah, it was a solicitation mistake.
Yeah, but then issue 3 will be out in October.
So there's no month wait between issue 2 and 3.
I love it because you're going to create even more buzz now because everyone's read issue 1 and they're like, damn it, I have to read issue 2, and they have to wait till September.
Yeah.
And
or
it's going to sell out instantly.
Or that's going to be the flip side where people are like, I'm not waiting 3 months. What's this? What are you talking about? Issue what of what? Move on to the next thing.
No, I'm foreseeing very good things about the future of this book. Again, Lonnie, Jenna, thank you guys so much for talking to us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. You guys are welcome to come back anytime you want to talk about comics or any of your projects. But thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much for having us. This was really cool.
Yeah, thanks, Dan and Bob. This was sincerely like a really good and fun interview to do. Yeah. So happy to come back anytime.
Yeah, anytime.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much, and I hope you guys have a wonderful night, and we'll see you later.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thanks. And that's it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to episode number 26 of the all new, all different #1 Comics podcast. You can find us on social media on Instagram at ANAD_1 Comics Podcast. You can check us out on Twitter if it still exists at ANADNO Comic Pod. On TikTok at ANAD1 Comics Pod. And on YouTube under the Comic Book channel. This and every single week, Bob and I would love to give a copy away of this book that we covered this week, being Barnstormers #1 from Dark Horse Comics. All you got to do is get on social media of your choice and use the hashtag #AllNewAllDifferentNation. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next time. The dialogue worked. The world building worked. Everything worked, but it did work. The dialogue worked. The world building worked. Everything worked, but it did work. The dialogue worked. The world building worked. Everything worked, but it did work. The dialogue worked. The world building worked. Everything worked, but it did work. The dialogue worked. The world building worked. Everything worked, but it did work.